In-person meeting planning can be a lot to manage. That's where Troop Planner comes in. Troop Planner is built to make life easier for busy assistants like you. Whether you're organizing an executive offsite, department meeting, or team retreat, Troop keeps it simple, fast, and organized. From choosing the perfect location to managing budgets, coordinating travel, and tracking attendee details, Troop brings everything together in one easy-to-use platform so you can save time and focus on what matters most. Troop has an exclusive offer for Leader Assistant listeners through Administrative Professionals Day, so don't miss out. Visit leaderassistant.com/troop to learn more. Hey friends, just want to let you know, in case you didn't, that my best-selling book, The Leader Assistant, has a companion study and discussion guide to go along with it. It's called the Leader Assistant Workbook. Now, you can buy the Kindle ebook version of the Leader Assistant Workbook on Amazon, or you can go to leaderassistantbook.com and get a printable PDF version of the workbook. This version has all the space and margin in between the questions that you can write your own answers and take notes with. So it's a great way to print it out and keep track of your discussion and study guide notes. Again, go to leaderassistantbook.com and click on Workbook to check out the Leader Assistant Workbook.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
Hey friends, welcome to the Leader Assistant Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and this is episode 316. You can check out the show notes, as always, at leaderassistant.com. And for this episode's show notes, you can just type in 316. So leaderassistant.com/316. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with Gabrielle Waxenberg. Gabrielle is she has experience as an assistant, over 12 years of experience supporting CEOs and founders in various industries. But she currently is founder and CEO of the Waxenberg Agency, which we'll dive into that here in a bit. But first off, Gabrielle, thanks for joining. Where in the world are you located?
Well, thanks for having me. I am currently right outside Boston, originally from the New York, New Jersey area. I've been here now 7-8 years. Still call New York, New Jersey home, but I'm here in Boston for now.
Nice. And what's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, I really enjoy Broadway and theater. Being from the New York area, always, going to Broadway, and now here in Boston, see as many shows as I can. I'm on a fun bowling team. Since I moved up here, I joined like a social bowling team, me and some friends. We are not good. But it's fun and it's, something social to do. And as I was discussing with you, I'm a huge Jets fan. Out here, we have the Boston Jets Club, which is probably like an idiom you don't hear very much.
Right.
New York fans up in New England, but it's a fun group. We all get together every weekend and watch, and I help run that. So,
that's awesome.
Now our season's over. But yeah, it was fun for the last few months, all getting together up here.
Cool. Well, that's awesome that you do that. And then the bowling thing, I've always loved bowling. I've never really been a great bowler. I've had a couple of days where I've bowled that I'm like, that was a pretty good day. I remember we used to do, I was homeschooled growing up, and we used to do like homeschool co-op get-togethers, and we'd go bowling, and we'd have like an hour and a half time limit, and you could bowl as many games as you wanted in that hour and a half. And so I remember one time we were doing it, and I never tried the spinning or anything. I just bowled as straight as I can. But I remember one time I must have been, 13, 14 years old, and I started off the game with 3 strikes.
Ooh.
And then I think I had a spare, and then I got 2 strikes in a row after that. And
Sounded
then
good.
our time ran out and they turned off everything. And I was so mad. I was like,
No.
this is like probably going to be my best score ever. And I remember I went up to the counter and I was like, can you print out my score? Because I know I didn't finish the game, but I don't think to
That
this day, I don't think I've ever gotten three
ever
strikes
started.
to spare and two strikes to start up. So,
Yeah. Like I
anyway.
said, we are not very good. We like to think we are. Uh, but and then like one of my teammates will like curse when he gets like one pin. And I'm like, dude, like your score is maybe 100, 120 out of 300. Like we're not good. But like the emotions there. Like we
Yeah,
have a good
competitive
time.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good time.
It's awesome. It's making me want to go bowling, especially in the
Come
winter.
on to
It's a great,
Boston, I'll take you out.
yeah, it's a great sport to play in the winter for sure. Um, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about your career. How did you end up in the assistant world in your journey back in the day, and kind of walk us through a little bit of experiences through that career, and then why you ended up deciding to start your own business.
Yeah, well, I think like many assistants, it's not something I went to school for or was looking to do. I kind of, as people say, fell into it. I actually went to school for hospitality and casino management. My first job was at a casino, um, doing that. And from there, working in hospitality, which I think a lot of assistants started in hospitality.
Yeah.
In the casino management field was a very finance-based career. I then went into finance, like entry-level stuff, APAR. From there, I was still doing finance in a legal company. And from there, I kind of worked my way up in that legal company. I became head of finance, head of billing, and then kind of just there was the scheduling and coordinating. And then I started working there and then became head of that. And then I kind of oversaw a few departments and then kind of de facto became kind of the office manager. And then it was a small office. And then I kind of was overseeing people, became a manager and did this. And then I was kind of like the right hand to the VP in the office. And it was just kind of doing those basic EA tasks, but I wasn't an EA. I didn't know what an EA was. And I was doing that. When I left that company, I was kind of burnt out. I was 23, 24, working 24/7 in this legal company. And I just needed something that wasn't as much. And I ended up going to this actually pet food manufacturing company, mainly treats they made. And I took a job as an EA to the CEO. I can't even remember how I got this job or why I was even qualified, just from what I was doing at this legal firm. And I was there, I think only a year, but I really enjoyed what I was doing there. And so from there, I just started looking at other EA jobs. And that was kind of the start of my EA career. And then from there, technically that was a manufacturing company. I kind of just did everything. I was in IT sales. I was in banking. I was in another legal firm. I was in healthcare, just everything. As you know, like EA, you can kind of transfer those skills to any industry. It doesn't need to be specific.
Yeah.
Then when I moved to Boston, the Boston landscape is very pharmaceutical, biotech, healthcare. So since I've been in Boston and I became an EA, it was mainly in the healthcare. I was with Fortune 4 company, Aetna, CVS, very large, obviously 300,000 people. And then some startups. Boston's also known for their startup cycle with all the MIT, Harvard, all of that. Very startup heavy. So I've also worked for some startups here. About, I would say 2 years ago and more, I'd always thought about having my own thing, but never really did anything about it. One of the startups I was in did very well. We got unicorn status. We were valued at 1.1 billion. We went through our Series C. I had shares. I think we did very well. That's kind of the hope for everyone when they're working in a startup. My CEO left, who I was working for, and had the opportunity to stay, but he was the one I was working with. He was the one I had the relationship with. And I said, you know what, if he's going to go, I'm going to go too. And I said, this is my opportunity. Let me see if I can start something now. I'm young. Well, not as young as I thought I was, but like, I'm going to start it now. If I don't do this now, I'm always going to kick myself in the butt. Let's do this. And you know what? If I fail, if it doesn't work, I can always go back to work, but this is my opportunity. These are the signs. I'm going to do this now. So I decided to start my own fractional assistance company. And we have different branches. It's not just fractional assistant work. I'm also doing recruiting for full-time EAs for those companies that still want that. And I'm also doing coaching for EAs, confidence coaching, interview prep, resume rewrite, LinkedIn model, all those things. So there's kind of 3 branches to what I'm doing here. But the main goal was, one, obviously work for yourself. That's like the American dream. Who wants to do that? And I was burnt out from, right? It's not a 40-hour job. An EA, you're working 24/7. When you're working for C-suite and board members and founders, it's around the clock. And I was on call at all times. I didn't have a social life. When I put myself into work, I put myself into work. So my life was their life. And, a lot of that's my fault, but I felt I needed to do this. I was getting paid very well and I was doing things and I loved my job, but that was my life. And I needed to find a better balance. And so now instead of working for one principal for 60, 70 hours a week, I split my time. And I'm doing a lot of different things. And we also have subcontractors that sub out to other people. And so it makes for a better that. And I'm the boss, right? I report to myself. And it's a different relationship now. The EAs that are going are doing the same work, but they're business partners. It's not their boss. They're a business partner. There's an SOW about what you're going to do. And it's just a different mentality going into it now. And I just think it's the breath of fresh air.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So you mentioned like kind of fractional EA. How do you think that varies from, in your experience, from maybe just like contracted virtual assistant? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I don't like to use the word virtual assistant. When I think when people hear that, they assume offshore, international, right, this and that. So I use the word fractional assistant. Most of it is remote. There are times when travel is needed. If there is a big offsite, a big board meeting, sometimes they want somebody in person for logistical reasons. Or there's travel. There was an event, that had to go to that was a big to do with a lot of important high net worth individuals. And I flew there to make sure everything was okay. But most of the work is done remotely. So that word virtual is okay. It's just when a lot of people hear that nowadays, they assume it's this offshore. And I want to get away from that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just a different level of service.
Right.
That we're providing than an offshore kind of company. And there's also the cultural differences of someone's going to call and say, hey, can you make sure we get, a 5-star restaurant that has a private room, that has this, that has that? And you want to know about, is there valet parking? Where can they do this? Where can they do that? That somebody that's familiar with certain cities is going to know that, where someone, and I'm making this up, if you call a virtual assistant in the Philippines, just doesn't know the nuances of America and of this. And do they know what downtown New York City is like on a Saturday night around the holidays in December? That's going to be chaotic, and that, GPS tells you it's going to take 20 minutes to get there. That's going to be an hour and a half drive, and you have to leave this much time and parking and this and that. And there's just certain things that people don't know in different cultures. And so that's why I stray away from that. And there's obviously also the compensation differences between offshore and American, obviously vast.
Yeah.
But what I'm noticing is there's still those companies, and I would say, in my experience, what I've noticed, the larger companies are still going with full-time EAs, but a lot more of these startups and these more tech companies are doing more fractional. They don't need full-time, and they need certain more assistance. And there's also a difference between tactical assistance and strategical assistance. Some people just need those. I need help with scheduling meetings in my email and do this. And other people need more help with board initiatives and stuff that they're doing on that level. So there's so many different levels of help that we can help with depending on those people's needs.
So how do you have a team that you work with? Do you kind of have in and out finding people, or do you have like a few full-time people that work with you all the time and that kind of hire out to these different clients?
It varies. They're all subcontractors, they're all 1099. Some want full-time work, some only want part-time work. So depending on the clients, of course, we match them accordingly. So I have a couple that work full-time with multiple executives. So
Gotcha.
For instance, I have one that has 3. And so with those 3, she works full-time hours, but with each of them fractionally. And I have another one who she only wanted to work a max of 20 hours a week, has young kids at home and didn't want to work the full-time hours. And so she works with one client. She has about 10 to 15 hours a week, and that's the max that she wants. So to her, she's full-time, that's done. So it really depends on the individual. They stick with the same clients, of course, unless some contracts are open-ended. Some are a 3-month contract. Some are, I just need it for a project. Like we're doing an offsite. Can you help us plan this and do this? Or we're having a huge company party, right? There were holiday parties going on and things like that. We have a 500-person company. Can you just do this? And so something like that might take a month or 2 to handle. But most of our contracts are open-ended where it's just assistance until they either want to close the contract or modify the hours or something like that.
The ping pong back and forth game of manually scheduling meetings is unnecessary and inefficient in today's automated world. It's time to embrace calendar automation for increased productivity and capacity. You Can Book Me by Capacity is my favorite automated booking solution. It's a game changer for me and my executive. You can manage scheduling for your entire executive team, send automated reminders, add buffer time between appointments, and much more. You Can Book Me integrates with your existing Microsoft and Google calendars so you can add automation without disrupting your current workflow. Go to leaderassistant.com/calendar to learn more and sign up for a free trial of this powerful scheduling automation tool. That's leaderassistant.com/calendar. Nice. Awesome. So that's great. And congrats on getting that business set up and going. What, you mentioned you do some training and stuff. What are your thoughts on advocating for assistants in different organizations? It's like, hey, you need a full-time, you need a strategic assistant here, or even empowering those assistants to see themselves as strategic partners. Any thoughts on advocating for and empowering assistants?
Yeah, earlier in my career, I didn't speak up. I just kind of hung out in the background, and I didn't really feel like there was anyone in the company, whether it be HR, my direct supervisor, that even really spoke up for me. And I also noticed that a lot of the times within these companies, right, there's training budgets, there's L&D budgets, and I'm making this up, the marketing team or the finance team, right, they would go on maybe a day offsite, the whole team, and they would have like a team retreat or a team learning thing, or they would be allowed to go to a conference and learn something, it could be a payroll thing or some kind of marketing thing. But EAs never did it, right? There were no conferences, or even if there was a training, it'd be like, oh, we're not spending money on that. It always seemed like they were kind of pushed to the side, and there was nobody advocated for them. And there really were no trainings, even dedicated to them. And if we found something, the money could be used better somewhere else. So the L&D and training money didn't go to them. And they sometimes, not always, depending on the company, they weren't really part of the department. Maybe you were the marketing EA, but you weren't part of the marketing department. Sometimes the EAs were part of their own group. And so there was like an administration department, whatever it may be. And it always frustrated me because a lot of EAs felt like they were stuck. Once you got to a certain level, if you were EA to the CEO, where do you go next? You're done. Like, there's nowhere else in the company unless you wanted to not be an EA anymore and then go do something else. And these were a lot of thoughts that when I spoke to EAs, they all felt this way, the same way too. I'm at this pinnacle and now I'm done. What? Do I become a chief of staff? But I don't really want to be a chief of staff. That's a totally different job. Do I have to be a project manager now because that's kind of the only realm of an EA? Or I'm done now and that's it. And I've also seen where a lot of EAs are, if their boss leaves the company or something happens, sometimes they're out of a job. They're linked to that person. Someone who takes over their job had their own EA comes. So a lot of times they're not their own person, or they're just this extra body in the company, and there was no one there for them. And it happened with me. I've had almost, I think it was 3 or 4 times in my career where my C-suite exec moved on and I was just gone because what now? They're eliminating his position, so bye, because there's no open EA, something like that. And so as I kind of got older and I kind of got my voice and I started speaking up, sometimes it wasn't accepted as much. I could be brash. I started, seeing some of the younger EAs come in and kind of feeling like a big sister to them and saying, this isn't acceptable. I was seeing what was happening. And I would kind of, I don't want to use the word mentor, but kind of feel like I was mentoring them and saying, don't let this happen to you. Speak up now. Don't get into this position where I feel like I'm stuck now, but you can make these moves quicker. And I saw some changes. And then I got involved with the Admin Awards, which was a huge recognition for admins and help advocating for them. When I first got involved with them, I was very, I guess the word's queasy about it. Admins, they don't want to ask their bosses for a letter of recommendation, any money. Can you do this for me? Because half the time we end up doing the thing anyway. We send the email, we write the letter of recommendation. I have to write my own thing about me. I have to do this. So it was weird. But I had a great relationship with my boss at the time. This was that same company where I said we got unicorn status. And I said to him, hey, I want to ask you 2 things and pick one. And it was kind of I didn't know how to do it. So I figured if I gave him 2 options, maybe he'll pick one of them. And they were both for me. So it was kind of like a weird thing. And I said, hey, can you either write me this nomination and do this thing because I was nominated, and at the time I was sitting on a charity and he knew like I was very philanthropic and doing the thing. Would you and or the company donate to my charity I'm putting on this event? So do you want to give me money personally or would you write this? And he was like, nice. Well, which would you rather? And I was like, and I was very honest with him. I was like, well, I hate asking for things myself. So I'd honestly rather you donate to the charity. And that's what I said. And he was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do the nomination. And I think the company will still dominate to the charity. And he was so nice about it. And I was actually shocked that he did both. And in hindsight, it was like, both things were really no big deal.
Right.
Like, I wasn't asking him to donate $1 million. I was asking him for something little. And he wrote the nomination, which I had never seen. And I ended up being nominated. I became a finalist. I didn't win, which was fine. But the act of doing all that gave me so much confidence as an EA and just a person. And it gave me this voice to say to admins, don't be scared to do this. Don't do that. Yeah, some executives might say no, or you might be scared. But if you are a good admin and you have that relationship with your boss, one, if you're scared to ask them, you are not working for the right person. If you don't have a good enough relationship where you can't even simply ask for a recommendation, you're not in the right workplace, and that is not a good work environment for you. And it's not the worst that can happen is they're going to say no. And you have to work on your relationship with your boss. I always say working with someone as an EA, that is one of the closest relationships. I know their families. I know their kids. I know your social. I could steal your whole identity. Like, I know everything about you. You should, for the most part, know almost everything about me. It's one of those closest relationships. I know some of my execs closer than my sister and my parents. Like, I know their ins and outs. So if you can't be that vulnerable to ask them one question, there's something a little wrong with that relationship there.
Yeah.
Again, you may not want to ask them in your first 3 months of working with them, but I mean, as you get comfortable with them. And so since then, I've just been advocating. I've been working with the admin awards, and some of my dear friends who I know are a little scared and timid, I've seen them come out of their shell. Some of them I got into the admin awards, we've nominated them, and just to see them kind of stand up and be that person and see them change as admins, they've become better admins, better workers, and more of this community, I think is amazing.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. And I think that even your point about asking and then them saying no, I think even the act of putting yourself out there and asking can give you confidence and can give you
The
that.
scary part is the unknown, right? There's so
Yeah,
many things I'm scared of, and once I do it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that big, but it's the anxiety of it.
exactly. Cool. Well, what is maybe one of your favorite parts about the assistant role in your career? Maybe one of your favorite tasks that you've accomplished, or just a general, um, you know, element to your career in working as an assistant. What's maybe your favorite thing that you've done, or your favorite aspect of it?
Let's see. I don't know a specific task, but for me, and I think maybe a lot of use of this, I'm a little, OCD crazy, but for me, even in my personal life, like I make to-do lists. Okay, what do I got to do this weekend? My errands, my this. I
Mhm.
love crossing off my lists. So like as an EA, like every morning, I mean every night, every morning, I mean I constantly have like a list. Like I was like, oh, probably can't say this. Like 20 things right here, and there's constantly more coming. But I love just like crossing, and I still use paper and pen. I know there's like Monday.com and all these things that you can electronically use, which I have, but I double it up and I do it on paper and pen because I love crossing off when I do things. And at this level of support that I'm providing, there's just like a million things to do every day. And so my lists are crazy long, but I love crossing it off. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
get such satisfaction out of that.
Yeah.
I know it sounds very nerdy, but
No, no, I'm married to a list person, so I get it. I get it. I'm
but do
like,
you get
I'd rather
getting those
not.
lists from her?
Well, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to write lists. I just want to do the work and not put it on a list.
Yeah.
Um,
See,
but
but
no,
I need to, I'm also visual, so I have to see everything I have and then know what's most important, right? Not everything's urgent. People say it is. And so
totally.
then like other things get added. So I kind of have to switch it up in the line of where it goes so that not everything can get done in a day, right? So you got to
Yeah,
figure out when to do it.
awesome. Well, Gabrielle, thank you so much for being on the show. To kind of wrap things up, what is the best place, or where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they want to, learn more about your agency or your training and all that jazz? What's the best place for people
Yeah,
to
so I
find
think the
you?
quickest and easiest is always LinkedIn, Gabrielle Waxenberg, and I have a LinkedIn for the Waxenberg Agency, and obviously, for work. And from there, you can get all my work stuff. I
Hmm.
am public, so everyone, when you hit the contact info, you can see my work email and all my socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, just the Waxenberg Agency. You can find them everywhere. And then from there, you can get to my email on my website, which is the Waxenberg Agency, and contact me in any way.
Perfect. Well, I will put the links in the show notes for sure at leaderassistant.com/316. Thank you so much again for being on the show, and congrats on a great career as an EA and as a business owner now. And thanks for the work that you're doing to recognize and empower assistants of the world.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com.
Hey friends, my best-selling book, The Leader Assistant, has a companion study and discussion guide to go along with it. It's called the Leader Assistant Workbook. Now, you can buy the Kindle ebook version of the Leader Assistant Workbook on Amazon, or you can go to leaderassistantbook.com and get a printable PDF version of the workbook. This version has all the space and margin in between the questions that you can write your own answers and take notes with. So it's a great way to print it out and keep track of your discussion and study guide notes. Again, go to leaderassistantbook.com and click on Workbook to check out the Leader Assistant Workbook.